Today is November 4, 2025, and I'm broadcasting from Seattle. I'm spending my Tuesday here in Seattle before getting on a Delta flight to visit my parents. Each time I fly over this vibrant city with its coffee shops and skyscrapers, I am reminded, as someone who writes and podcasts about the shadows of empire, of the sad story of Chief Seattle. His story is a profound betrayal that echoes the entire devastating history of American colonialism, a story of a man who extended his hand in friendship only to have it slapped away and his home taken. The year is the mid-1800s, the place, Puget Sound. When American settlers began streaming into this pristine territory, they didn't meet fierce, immediate resistance from everyone. They met Chief Seattle. Seattle was a towering, charismatic leader, a diplomat who commanded respect both among his own Duwamish and Suquamish peoples and the newcomers. He was a pragmatist. He saw the tide of colonization coming, and he made a deliberate, heartbreaking choice: coexistence. He befriended David Swinson Maynard, a doctor and a businessman. He helped the struggling settlers. He believed that cooperation, dialogue, and a shared future were the only way to preserve his community in the face of overwhelming change. Imagine the scene: two cultures standing on the edge of the continent looking out at the vast wilderness. One sees the land as life itself, something to be shared, honored, and respected. The other sees a resource, a commodity to be surveyed, owned, and exploited. Chief Seattle tried to bridge that chasm with goodwill and trust. That trust, of course, was his undoing. The great turning point came in 1855 with the signing of the Treaty of Point Elliott. Chief Seattle and other tribal leaders were convinced, coerced, and maneuvered into ceding a staggering amount of territory, an estimated 2.5 million acres of ancestral lands. In the settlers' minds, this was a transaction, a fair exchange of land for promises of reservations, goods, and protection. But for Chief Seattle, it was an unimaginable loss, a tearing away of the soul of his people. He had cooperated, he had ceded what felt inevitable, believing that the future generations would at least have a protected place. He thought his friendship had earned a place for his people at the new table. He was wrong. The city that grew on that taken land, the city that thrives today, chose to immortalize his name, Seattle. But here lies the most brutal, crushing irony of colonialism. While the settlers were happy to use his name for their burgeoning metropolis, they were unwilling to share the space. In the ensuing years, discriminatory laws and ordinances backed by colonial power and racial prejudice systematically banned Native Americans from living within the very limits of the city named in honor of their greatest leader. The very people who had lived there for millennia, whose chief's name graced the maps, were forbidden entry. Think of the psychological devastation. A man who sacrificed for peace, who bet on friendship, was rewarded with expulsion. The story of Chief Seattle is not just a historical footnote, it is a profound lesson in the depressing nature of colonial power, a system that honors the idea of the noble savage while systematically erasing the actual indigenous person. He sought a compromise that was impossible because the colonial mindset is built on the premise of total dominance, not shared space. His friendship wasn't seen as a partnership, it was seen as an opportunity. And the tragic pattern is not relegated to the history books. We see echoes of this betrayal today in new forms of corporate land grabs, in indigenous communities fighting pipeline construction across their sacred lands, or in environmental justice movements, where the land is poisoned and the original stewards are displaced. We see it in housing crises, where communities are pushed out of neighborhoods that are then rebranded and named for historical figures they share no connection with. The story of Chief Seattle is a timeless warning. When you negotiate with a power that does not recognize your fundamental human and territorial rights, goodwill is not enough. You can be the kindest, most accommodating leader, but if the system is built on exploitation, your good intentions will only pave the road for your own people's suffering. Chief Seattle's name lives on. Let the tragic irony of his story remind us that true reconciliation demands more than naming a city. It demands justice for the land and for the people who were betrayed on its soil.